Well, hello again. It's another dull, dreary, overcast, rainy, mucky day at Arkansas, but at least the temperature has come up. We're supposed to hit 60, 61 degrees today. Fantastic. Maybe if I work really hard and really diligently, I can get at least one of the leaf springs back up. Yesterday I came out at the height of the temperature, which was like right at 49 degrees, I guess. I was kind of pushing it on the paint. But I went ahead and sprayed the leaf springs with a nice gloss primer. It's a primer and a black gloss paint together. They look really nice. Don't they look cool sitting next to our axle? Yeah. This side over here on the passenger side has already had the rust treatment put on, the primer paint put on, and the undercoating put on. Over here I have not had a chance to do the undercoating because of the cold temperature, but I'm fixing to do it now. We are all done with the undercoating, so the entire underneath area of the car is well protected. So what we need to do now is get on that leaf spring. By the way, I was asked a question by someone to include my son. He said, "Why didn't you take the mufflers and pipes down when you went up underneath there?" Okay, number one, the pipes or the mufflers themselves are in pretty bad shape. I don't want to be messing with them; they'll fall apart easily. Secondly, up underneath the top of the muffler where the fender is and everything is pretty good. I didn't see any rust. It's just nothing but dirty undercoating. So there may be some up under there. I just couldn't see it. And when I get this car running and get it out of the garage, I intend to drive it downtown to our muffler shop that we have down there called Country Cousins. They do excellent work. And we're going to have a new system put on this thing. I don't know how, maybe from the center of the car to the rear. It depends on what we see. And I talk to them when we get there. And I don't want to be driving downtown with no mufflers on this car. The first thing we have to do is get our rear hanger on the car. Now that thing sits like this. It goes up on the car like this. Okay, let me get my hand in a better position here. It goes on the car like that. This goes up against the body of the car. These three holes bolted there. Okay. Now these are the three bolts that we've cleaned up. Got them painted, looking good, and we've got brand new lock washers. Brand new lock washers, if you can do it. If you can't, let me put it to you bluntly. If you can't afford to buy a lock washer, you don't need to be restoring a car. Plain and simple, okay? Buy food, forget the lock washers, forget the cars. All right, now, the interesting thing about the hanger on this car is you would think that once the hanger is bolted to the bottom of the car, that the shackle, you would think the shackle would hang down like so. Let me get this in better place here. You would think that the shackle would hang down like this from the hanger. The shackle would hang down, and then of course the spring would attach to the bottom bolt down there. You would think. But that's not the way it is. It's totally different from what I had expected. It's actually this way. It goes in through here like this, and the bolt for the leaf spring is up between them like that. Isn't that weird? So the spring is actually hooked between the loop at the bottom, or the eye, and the top of the bracket. Picture the spring coming down at an angle out from underneath those two. So that's what I have to do. I got to put it back in. Like that. If I do it any other way, it'll be wrong. Now once we get the bolts up through the hanger and into the body of the car, I'm going to be tightening them down with this ratchet and extension. It's a 9/16. By the way, I made a mistake the other day. Let me get this thing here. I want to clarify something now that I'm thinking about it. You remember those crush washers I talked about in the last video? I said the hole in the center was 9/16. It's not. The bolt holding them in is, or the nut that goes on is 9/16. The hole in the center is 3/8. That's a 3/8 hole in those crush washers. All right, just to clarify that. I don't know what I was thinking of when I said that, but it happens. Now for the bolt goes up through the hole in the hanger, and I will tighten it all the way down and get it nice and snug with my ratchet, long extension, and 9/16. Let me make sure that's a 9/16. I don't want to mislead you all again. Yes, it is a 9/16. And once we get all three bolts in, getting them snugged all down with that, then we have to go back and torque them. we have to torque them. But what does torque mean? You know, there's folks out there that don't know what torque means, and that's the purpose of these videos. It's for the basic guy teaching them how to do things, or the basic lady to teach her how to do things on a budget. But along the way, we teach a couple of things that they maybe don't know. So I'll go over here and show you. This is my torque wrench. I've had this torque wrench for years and years. Torque means we're going to tighten it down to a certain amount. Each one will be the same. Each bolt will be the same. But if you make them too loose, they'll rattle off maybe years from now, fall down on the ground. If you make them too tight and strip them, the same thing happens. They'll shake loose out of the body of the car, and down goes your spring. You know, every bolt in this car requires a certain torque, a certain tightness, either by inch-pounds or foot-pounds. This here requires 14, believe it or not, to 26. Let me get the paper. I'm always prepared, as you can see. I had it all memorized, and then I come out here and it just blew right out of my mind. Of course, that's probably never happened to anybody else out here. Okay, rear hanger to the body is 14 to 26 foot-pounds. So we need to torque these bolts after they're tightened up and snugged up, 14 to 26 foot-pounds, as determined by our torque wrench here. Now, let me shut this off, get it in position, and I'll show you how to set that up. 14 to 26, I think I'll just torque them at 25. Now, there's several different kinds of torque wrenches you can buy out there. There's the digital kind. They have a little digital display. I have one. We have the click type torque wrench, which is this right here. When you reach the the setting that you have it set at on the bolt, when you're turning it, and all of a sudden it goes, and when it hits that point, it goes click, click. Now, of course, the digital type will just give you a readout telling you what your foot-pounds level is that you have reached. There's another kind out there that has a needle that sweeps back and forth, a gauge, which is located down by the handle. The gauge is like kind of at a sort of a semi, well, actually some of them are pretty straight too. They're just a gauge left and right. And the needle, if it's set accurately, will go this way or that way, depending on what it is you want to do. And it's just written out with little lines, just like on a ruler. Anyway, what I have here is the click type. It's an old one. I've had it for years and years. I hope it still works right. It should. And let's go down there and look at the numbers on the side. This thing goes up to 150 foot-pounds. Let me get a little clarity here. Come on, baby. There we go. It goes up to 150 foot-pounds. It's 10, 20, 30, 40, back and forth, all the way to the top. 150 foot-pounds is its maximum amount of torque that I can get. On the other side, there's another scale down below where my finger is. It's kilograms. Well, we use foot-pounds, okay? So now I need 25. So right now it's set at about 10. Here's the 0 mark. The individual numbers are on this ring. They turn, okay? So let's get the 0 back to 10. Right here. You can see it. And we're going to go up to 20 and then 5. So let's turn it all the way around till we reach the 0 on the 20. Alright, there's the 20 with the 0. Now we go 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're now supposedly at 25 foot-pounds. Hopefully that's right. Because like I said, this is an old torque wrench. If it turns out it's not right, I know where I could buy another one. So anyway, now this thing at the bottom here is to tighten the handle up so it doesn't move while you're using your hand to pull it back and forth to tighten up those nuts. So I'll have to take this and lock this black knob down against that. Just twist it down tight and it won't move. So let me get that all set up. Well, there's the first one up, but I haven't torqued it yet. I just tightened them on down. She's pretty snug, but we still got to torque it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try, I don't know if this is going to work or not, I'm going to try to show you using a short extension, which will help a lot. I'm going to put that thing on there. I'll put it on this one. It'll probably be easier. I don't know if it will or not. Let me see here. I want to try to show you. First thing we have to do is check our torque setting on the torque wrench. Let me check it. Hang on. Okay, we're still good. Now I'm just going to tighten this baby to the right. If I can get some clarity here on my camera. Bear with me on this. It's kind of hard to do one-handed. There we go. Now, listen for the click, hopefully. A little bit more. Did you hear that? Huh? Listen. Listen again. Very important. This is what you're listening for. Hear it? I have reached my 25 foot-pounds right there. Okay, now I'm going to do that to the other two bolts. That wasn't too painful, was it? The last bolt up here, you can't get to it with a standard extension on the end of a ratchet or on the end of a torque wrench. So you have to use what's called a swivel or universal. What's that? Well, this is a swivel. You know, my old man used to call it a swivel. It's also called a universal, but my old man used to call it a swivel. One time I remember I was helping him on his car. It was a dead of winter, and he says, "Go give me a swivel out of the toolbox, a 3/8." Yeah, I think I was like 13 years old, you know. So I didn't know what a swivel was. You know, you didn't argue with the old man, old World War II vet. You just went. So anyway, I go in there and I'm digging through the toolbox and I'm digging. I'm trying to reason. You know, what is a swivel? God, he never told me. You know. Finally, he comes, you know, marching back here to find out what was taking so long. He says, "Well, can't you find it?" I said, "Well, I don't know what a swivel is." "What do you mean you don't know what a swivel is?" "Well, I never seen one, Dad." "Okay, look here. This is a swivel. It's a 3/8. See, it's 3/8 of an inch on each side, and it's a swivel. It moves around, you know, like that. You can do all kinds of stuff with it." "Oh, okay. All right, take it back out to the car where we're working." That's the way it was with him, you know. This was just no discussion. So anyway, for those of you who didn't know what a swivel was, what do you mean you didn't know what a swivel was? Now you know what it is. See, it's 3/8 by 3/8, and it swivels this way and that way, okay? Now you can see how the swivel works. I'm able to go up at an angle from the, you know, with the long extension from the torque wrench, and once I get up underneath there, it angles off to the right, and I can get it on the bolt head and do my torque. So that's what a swivel or a universal is. Alright, now in order to keep things neat and clean the way I've been, you know, trying to do it, I'm going to go ahead and spray paint you know, the lock washers and the bolt heads again, just to make sure things are good to go. We want them as rust free as possible for as long as possible. This is a primer and a paint in one. Alright, we'll let that dry. Maybe I'll give it one more quick shot. Then I'm going in for some coffee. Let's go ahead and get these bushings in the spring eyes. Get those babies in. I like seeing that. Ooh, that just looks so good. I just get a big charge out of that. Let's get the other ones in. What the heck is that thing there? Ooh, we got to do something about that. Oh, okay. I thought it was a nick in the paint. I don't know what that is. Alright, here we go. Let's get it in there now. Oh, she's wanting to be stubborn. I'm going to take two hands. I'll put a little bit of silicone spray in there. Might as well put a little in the middle too. I'll just put a little bit of silicone spray. Don't use axle grease or anything like that. Yeah, now she slips right in. That's what I was after. Alright, this is the front hanger that goes over the top of the front eye, and it's fastened to it. Now if we take a look at this, the problem is, see, I can't get it in there because the rubber things are sticking out too far. It hits. Well, isn't that something, huh? Well, what do we do about that? Well, I tell you what, we don't have to do anything about that. The Ford design engineers did it for us. Let me explain. The old boy on the assembly line, he didn't have to worry about stuff like that because the engineers had it all figured out for him. What you do is you see this large hole right here? One side of this hanger has a big hole. The other one just has a small hole. So this will go over the top like that, fit quite nicely. And then you insert the other rubber bushing down through this large hole. And then you go ahead and put this large washer, you know, it'll fit over the top like that. And then of course this whole thing will go through the center. It goes on before you put this on. And then you start putting your nuts and your lock washers on, and you just scrunch it right on down, and you got it made. Let me go ahead and put it together. Now these nuts originally on these bolts did not have a lock washer, and they do have to be torqued. So I think what I'm going to do is, I don't know why it didn't have a lock washer, it just didn't. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of throw them up there and tighten them, you know, snug them up to where it's mounted into the car and everything. Then maybe stop down at the hardware store tomorrow and get a couple of lock washers and put on them. I think they should be on there. Anyway, that's the way she goes. Okay, that's all there is to it. Now this thing here will swivel back and forth, enabling me to put bolts. The bolts will go down through these holes right here. You see one there, and there's a couple more over here. They go right into the body. And the bolts have all been cleaned and painted. I got brand new lock washers for all of those. So let's go ahead and get this thing up under the car and see if we can't manhandle it up there. The way this thing works now is you have to put the rear part of the spring up first, and the shackle will be hanging downward, and then you go ahead and swivel it up like that, up into in the center of those two pieces of metal. And once you get it swiveled up in place, then you can, you know, hustle on back down here and bolt this hanger to the frame of the car, to the body of the car. There is no frame on this car. It's a unibody construction kind of thing. Let me show you what I'm talking about by swiveling those shackles up and out of the way. It has to be done that way because they're interfering with the muffler. I don't want to take the muffler off. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and put the small eye with the bushings in it. We're going to slide it across here like this. Then we'll take the entire spring and rotate it up like that, up out of the way. I can't do it any other way because this muffler's in the way. And once we get it up and out of the way, sort of as far as it'll, you know, as far as the spring and the space will let it go, then we'll go ahead and put our lock washer and our retainer. I forget what they call that thing on the other side. We'll see it when the time comes. But once it's out of the way, then I can, you know, get down here at the other end and just kind of move the spring back and forth, lining it up with the holes on the body for the other end of the spring. And then we'll just bolt everything in place, and when we're all done, we'll have a shackle sitting on top of a hanger like that. Is that cool? Well, I never did go get that cup of coffee I talked about earlier, so now I'm going to. I decided to just drive on until I got this part done. And now it's time for coffee. When I come back out, I'll be re-energized. This thing weighs 40 pounds by itself, and then of course we have this heavy steel. This is amazing how thick that steel is, isn't it? I mean, we're talking some heavy-duty stuff there. That's the way they used to do it years ago, back in the days when Americans knew how to make things. Alright, I am reinvigorated, so let's do it! I'm going to take that heavy-duty silicone with me too, because we're probably going to need it to slip that bolt through those bushings. Since I'm doing this job by myself, I have to be a little bit innovative, so this thing here will be sitting against the floor, and I don't want to be digging up the concrete or tearing up this. So we have a box that came in the other day from Summit Racing. I ordered a part, and this box will go over that. I cut a hole in the center there. It will go over there and it'll sit like that, so the spring will be sitting on the box instead of the concrete once I flip it over. Alright, that little idea right there works pretty good. All I got to do is just slide her right on in. She's all in position. But we have to see if I can slip the eye of this thing here and the bushings over the top of that baby right there. Well, it's just a matter of lifting it up and sliding it on, right? Yeah, right. Until old man Murphy shows up. Where's my silicone spray? Well, son of a gun, it slipped right on there just like it's supposed to be there. Alright, now comes this little booger here. Boy, I'm glad I cleaned up and painted all these parts. It makes life so much better. I just really enjoy working on a car that's been cleaned and painted, de-rusted and all that. And then I got more lock washers, of course. Brand new lock washers. And now comes the nuts, and then of course you have to torque them. Now I'm not going to torque them right now. I'm going to go ahead and just tighten them up. Leave everything kind of loose. Remember now, this entire thing here has to be swiveled up to there, so I can put the front end hanger up and get the bolts in for that. They're kind of where'd the other nut go? We just had it here, of course, and of course it bounced away somewhere. There it is. All right, that's another little hazard you always have under a car. Bolts and nuts will bounce away and you'll never see them again. Just like parts in the shop when you're working on your radios and stuff. All right, I'll just snug it up tight, swivel it up, and see if I can't get one bolt in between that front bracket and the side of the car. Once I get one in, we're home free. These are the 4 bolts that secure that front hanger to the body. And of course, again, you know, brand new lock washers. Once the rear was, you know, hooked up, the front turned out to be that heavy spring, and the low angle that I was working at turned out to be a little bit more than I could lift. So, you know, we just got the jack out. We're going to jack it into place, get it up to where the bolts are lined up. I'll have to move it forward just a little bit out of that rear shackle where it's positioned, where the rear shackle's positioned. I'll have to move it forward just enough to line up the bolt to get the first bolt in. The spring is back in. I haven't torqued anything yet. I'll be getting to that in a little while. The front hanger torque is 70 to 100 pounds. I'll probably torque them about 85 pounds. All 4 of those large bolts that hold that hanger to the body. But one thing I wanted to show you, I told you that once the spring is in, this shackle will be up between the bolts here and this U here. But I mean, the bottom where it comes down to the eye. But you know, if you look at it, it's straight ahead. Well, how can it be up there if it's down here? Well, what's happening here is that the spring is sitting all the way down. See? Now I've got the jack underneath the spring. Let me just focus here a little bit for you. The jack, and see the spring is sagging all the way down. There's nothing to push it up. So we'll go ahead and fake that there's a tire on by using the jack. Now watch what happens to this. See how she begins to go up? That's what's going to happen when we start putting the weight on it. We'll wind up with about a 13-degree angle there, I think it is, for that shackle to work properly. Well, there she is, guys. You know, up at the front, those torques of 80 to 100 foot-pounds, I couldn't do it. Not enough leverage, and I'm not strong enough. But boy, one thing I hadn't noticed before, look at this thing. It's at an angle. It's actually at an angle. It's closer to the muffler here, and then it just angles toward the center of the car back there. I hadn't even noticed that. But, you know, these shackle bolts, I was able to get those, no problem at all, as far as torque. But those front ones up there, those big suckers, man, I'll have to wait till I get it up on a lift or something. I didn't want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, you know, trying to get that torque wrench to click, because I'm not exactly 100% sure it's accurate, or it's even working like it used to. It was part of the flood deal, okay? I had to clean it out and soak it in WD-40 and all kinds of stuff to get it to work again. I may be better off just buying another one. I don't know. I do have that digital one, but still, you know, we're dealing with the leverage underneath the car. I just don't have enough space to do it. I have to get the car up in the air. All right, we'll call this a day right here. As far as the, you know, leaf spring goes, let's go in the shop and, well, we won't go in the shop. We'll just talk about it right here. Something easier. Here are some of the parts we got in. This is our pinion seal from Rock Auto, and the gasket for the differential to bolt up to the axle housing. Got that in too. And then we have a box of stuff here that is really neat. I told you last time I was going to tell you a little story about this, and I'm going to do it. So if you're just bored, just go on off to another video. It doesn't matter. I found those things in that little white box. Remember those shackle bushings on a website? I mean, on eBay. A seller was selling, and he gave me a really good price on these things. So I looked around what else he had for sale, and there were a few other things he had for sale. So I started buying. You know, it was a good deal. Zero shipping involved, which was that's my big incentive to buy from someone nowadays. They had he had a 1966 Thunderbird electrical assembly manual, and one other one he had was a body and interior assembly manual. These are reproduction. They're brand new, still in the plastic. Well, I started dealing with this person, buying this, buying that, and it turns out that he was a she. I didn't know that. Her name was Ann. That kind of blew me away when I found that out, because she was listing these parts up there. She had done her, she's no car expert, but she had done her research, and she knew what all the parts were except for one or two, and she asked me a couple questions about those. But she sent me her email. We began talking back and forth, and she, about different kinds of parts she had. She wanted to list on eBay. She needed some answers. Well, I kept going and looking at her stuff on eBay, and I kept buying it and buying it. Here's a set of brand new door seals. Now, I have a set of door seals already, but one of them's no good. So essentially, I had to have a new set. These are the ones that are going to keep water out of the car. And this little baby right here was what I wanted Wifey to buy me for Christmas, but she never did. This little baby right here goes along right here where these holes are in front of the back bumper. This little sucker here fits in there just like that, all the way across. And they're held in, and when you close they're kind of, I'll probably have to warm them up or something to squeeze them together. They're awfully out of shape. And that's probably the way they were made. It has nothing to do with her. And you put them on, you put this thing on all the way across, and that seals another portion of the trunk. And then, of course, she had these rubber things that, what they are, they go on top and bottom of the springs, the leaf springs. I mean, a full set of those. What a heck of a deal. Then she had this here, this was Fender skirt seals. I have the Fender skirts, but I have no seals, that go around the wheel well. So I got a set of those. And she also had a set of these strut bushings, and I bought those. That's for up front. In case I need them at a later date, the price was good. I couldn't turn them down. So, naturally my question was, what are you doing with all these parts? Being a lady, you don't see too many women involved in this sort of thing. And she told me that actually she was selling them for her brother who had an accident. And he had, I guess, a couple of Thunderbirds. He had 5 others sitting in the yard. One of them he restored. The second one he had an accident, never got to restored, but he had a whole bunch of parts left over. They've been sitting around for quite a while at her house, I guess. And he told her, hey, look, why don't you just go ahead and... They've been sitting there for years, I guess. And he told her, look, just go ahead and sell them all and keep the money. And, well, that's a heck of a guy. His name was Jim, and apparently he hurt his shoulder real bad in his arm. He just couldn't do any more restorations. I'll show you a couple of pictures at the end of this video of a Mustang that he was restoring. He was a real attention to detail guy. He turned a fastback Mustang. I mean, it looked really nice when he got done. I'll show you a couple of photographs of that. But anyway, he was one of these, at one time, old Jim, he was one of these independent types. And he drove a dump truck as his primary vehicle. That's my kind of guy, Who cares what the rest of the world thinks? I'm doing it my way. And that's the way I pretty much do things, to a certain extent. And I want you to know that Ann was the one that was responsible for this. She does have a whole lot more for sale on eBay. However, for those of you who have Thunderbirds, you're looking for parts, go on eBay, look up clever.one, O-N-E. I think that's her eBay handle, clever.one, and number, the letter spelled out. And she's got a bunch of stuff there, reasonable price, free shipping. I like that. There's a lot of things I still could probably buy, but I'm not going to. Wifey said, that's it, time out. You've spent enough money for 1 month. Wait till next month. So next month I'm going to have to, like the U-bolts, to put the axle back on the springs. They're pretty expensive, so I have to wait till next month to spend money for those. That's okay, Barry, whatever. I've spent a ton of money this month anyway, this past month, and this month so far. So that's what's going on. I want everybody to say thanks, Ann, for helping John out. She gave me very good prices, And the no shipping, like I said, was the big draw. Anyway, one more thing. Let's go in and check on our bracket that's soaking in the vinegar. And if it's good to go, we'll leave it in there one more day, take it out tomorrow, and paint it up. Let's take a look at it. Well, it's not looking too bad, you know. I mean, I've got it almost all gone. I have to dig that out right there with a screwdriver. Just keep playing with it day after day. And this is rubber. This is the rubber bumper I was telling you about. This is the holds it in. It just goes through there. It's got a lip that goes up against these metal pieces that won't let it go back out. But I'll dig that out as much as I can, and we'll just about have it in another day or two, maybe 3 days. I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing, it's not going back on the car until all this rust is gone. Well, that's it for now. I'm sorry to have bent your ears so long. I just wanted to make sure I covered that spring business pretty much detailed. We have folks out there that, you know, never heard of a torque wrench. They've never seen how to, you know, to set one of the older type, the click types. They've never, they didn't even know what torque was. And the purpose of this channel, right from the very start, was to show people, or is to appeal to people who've never seen this stuff before. All you guys have seen it, and you already know it. You know, go look at some other video. I mean, what else can I tell you? That's all I do is bore you. Okay. All right. Until next time, I want to say thanks again to Ann and her brother Jim for helping us out with those parts. That was fantastic. We saved a lot of money. She made a little money. I saved a lot of money. It all came out in the wash, guys. One hand washes the other. Oh, one more thing. I want to acknowledge a lady named Vicky. This is really cool. You know, sometimes the strangest things happen to me. I went down to Hobby Lobby the other day and I bought something. I get up to the counter. I thought it was pretty expensive, you know. I didn't, but I needed it. I had to have it. I get up to the counter and I tell the lady, I said, "Do you have any discounts like for old people or military or anything like that?" And then she said, "No, we don't have it, any of that stuff." Well, this lady behind me, I happen to be there at the right day, the right time, the right place. And in the right checkout line, because there's like 2 or 3. This lady behind me says, "Excuse me, I have a 40% discount coupon here you can have." I said, "Well, I don't want that. I mean, you're buying stuff. You use it for your own stuff." She said, No. She said, "I want you to have this 40% discount. I'm not going to use it for these things." And I said, "Well, are you sure?" She said, Yeah, go ahead." Well, I wound up getting that thing for 40% off. And I mean, just out of the blue, this really very attractive lady named Vicky just helped me out that day. So, you know, it's the old story, guys. What goes around comes around. It may come around in little bits and chunks. It may come around in a whole lot of things. But when you know, I ran into 2 really terrific ladies, Ann and Vicky, all in the same week. So, yes, what goes around comes around. Don't ever forget it. Once in a while, you got to get off the wallet. You got to give to get. All right? All right. Until next time, this is John. Well, as usual, we're not done yet. This is that little old dump truck that Ann's brother drove around as his primary vehicle for quite a while. Kind of cool, actually. I guess it would just tilt right up there. You can see its steel sides. Pretty neat, huh? Anyway, this is right here. I guess this is what the car looked like when they first bought it, or he first bought it. And they just kind of tore it all to pieces, and fixed it, and did all. He was an attention to detail guy. He really was. And here they are cleaning it up. And a little bit of progress was made inside and out. You can already see that's going to be a nice, you know, that would be a nice looking car even at that stage. And then here he is mixing up some paint, I guess. The old jack stand car. Love it, love it. And cleaning and inspecting. And here they are getting it ready, I guess, to paint. And here they are. And it's in the paint booth. I guess this is after it's done. No, here he is. I can see it in the mist. He's painting the roof. Man, look at there. Where is he? He's there somewhere. That's what a homemade paint booth looks like when you don't. I don't think there's a fan there, but here he's putting some primer on and checking things out. And when he got all done, this is what he had. He had a really nice looking Mustang. It looks like a 65 or 66 fastback. Looks good. Did a great job on it. Anyway, that's Jim's car. I asked Dan for a picture of his Thunderbird, the one that he was going to work on. That the parts that I ultimately got never wound up on that car. But she said it might be in one of these pictures. Well, it's not, unfortunately. So there you go. Just to let you know, for years there's been guys out there just like me and a whole bunch of other guys, Dylan McCool and all kinds of guys out there fixing cars. Jonathan, is it Jonathan W? I think it is. He's one of I subscribe to a guy named Jonathan W, and he's working on a '59 Ford. Never did care for the '59 Fords. Never did care for any of those Fords really, except the Edsel. My dad, he was a Ford man. Anyway, that's it. We'll see you next time, guys.